allyship is so important. And I think that people are more open and willing to think about how they can be a good ally, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in the home or in the community, whether you're a parent, a friend, a colleague. What are 3 things that people can do to be a good ally?
I love this question because ally is a buzzword. Everybody considers themselves an ally of some community. And I think everybody has really good intentions to be an ally. But like you said, a lot of people don't know what to do. The number one thing is to listen. Is to listen to the community that you're not part of, that you don't have experience of. Listen to the challenges that they're facing, whether that's interpersonal challenges or structural challenges where they're experiencing discrimination on a systemic level. So they can understand what their day-to-day experience is and how that is limiting them for reaching their full potential, right? Then the second thing is, which is the most important thing, which is to act, right? Do something, right? In some way take action, because ally is not a passive word. Ally is an active word. You actually have to do the uncomfortable, sometimes risky work to be able to stand up for a community that may not necessarily be able to stand up for themselves. So for the LGBTQ community, for example, we expect heterosexual and cisgender allies to use the space that they have the privilege to be in to educate people who may not necessarily be aware of the challenges that LGBTQ people face. We expect them to stand up when they see the rights of LGBTQ people be challenged. We expect them to be on the streets with us. We expect them to call their senators and politicians so that they're supporting the rights that give us the dignity and the opportunity and the access to live our lives the way that everybody else does. So allyship is really about making sure the action is at the core of your desire to be an ally, right? And the last thing is to ask questions. Oftentimes, allies believe that their responsibility is to answer questions, especially if they're in that space where they are potentially trying to correct a situation. Potentially, they're trying to be a good ally, but they forget to ask questions to better understand where the person is coming from. So if I'm trying to be an ally to women, for example, my responsibility in that moment is to, yes, use my privilege in a male-dominated space to talk about why aren't there more women in this space, to ask panelists who invite me on a panel to say, like, there are only men on this panel, why aren't there women on this panel? But to also ask the panel organizers the questions that get them to understand, why is there a need for women to be on that panel? Why is there a need for people who are transgender or non-binary folks to be on that panel, right? Because it's less about telling somebody what to do, but more about getting them to understand why is there a need for these things to be happening.
Is it fair to say that even a small action can go a really long way?
Absolutely. I think any small action compounds itself into a bigger action, but the key word there is you have to move yourself up into another level, right? To other actions that are driving more impact. This is my personal mantra, but this is something that other people might not agree with. But I always believe that I'm only a good ally when I'm a little bit uncomfortable. And if I'm not uncomfortable, then I'm not necessarily being a good ally, right? Because being an ally is actually a little bit difficult. That doesn't mean that you need to put yourself in harm's way physically or emotionally. It just means that you need to do an audit of yourself to see, am I actually making an impact with this action that I'm taking?